In this course, we are awakening and cultivating awareness of the pelvis. So it is very possible that we come into contact with energetic and emotional layers that are woven through and imprinted in this very rich and vital space. So it feels really important to talk about how we can practice in a trauma-informed way. And the first thing I'll say about that is pacing your experience in a way that's appropriate for you. More is not always better. Faster is not always better. So really take your time with this course. I like to think of it as lowering yourself into a hot bath. You put your little toe in at first and you test the waters and you're like, ooh, that could be a bit of a shock, that sensation, the heat. And maybe you choose to take your toe out. Maybe you're like, that's too hot, I have to wait for another while. Or as we adapt and adjust to one practice at a time, or even 1 minute of a practice at a time, perhaps we start to experience a sense of expansion and ease with that sensation, an ability to tolerate and have capacity for it, in which case we can lower ourselves into the hot bath, and eventually it starts to be a really pleasant and even nourishing, life-enhancing place to be. That's when we can become bigger than the sensation or the emotion itself, so that we can actually hold it with love and stay connected to ourselves. So we have the hot bath metaphor. And what I will add to the hot bath metaphor is a concept called titration. And it has its origins in science and chemistry, where you're making potions and there's chemical reactions involved, and you're, I guess, managing the dosage of each of these chemicals so that it doesn't create an explosion. So applying this to our experience, take one piece at a time and only go to the capacity that you have to actually process the experience that you're having. If the dosage is too big, we can become overwhelmed, we become dysregulated, and it can be harder to come back to a sense of balance and regulation, connection to self, and actually process and integrate what just happened. So we want to go at the pace where we can actually integrate the experience, the sensation, the emotion, and have an experience that remains connected to self. If we start to become disconnected from self and experience, we're experiencing a lot of distress, we become overwhelmed, maybe we dissociate. That's not actually helping us on the long term to increase our distress tolerance. So particularly if you have a tendency to want to rush through things, or, if I do this, I'll heal. Let's notice that. Take that little part. We're going to sit it down and go, I love that you love me. You want me to have, the most access to my vitality as possible. I'm going to be the adult and pace this in a way where I can be responsible for myself and remain in connection. Part of this could also be knowing what your resources are. So particularly if you have content in this space that could be challenging or overwhelming for you to stay connected to, really helpful to have someone you can call. If you get distressed, you can call someone or text. Or maybe you have a counsellor that you're working with that you can kind of do this work in tandem with them, or invite them on the process so that they can help you process it in another space. And also having an understanding of what resourcing is. So if you've ever done an orientation practice, you'll know that there's kind of a method of coming back into contact with the present moment. You notice colours, you really focus on the textures. Maybe there's a bright, colourful object in the room that makes you feel happy. So if you're experiencing distress, you can open your eyes and reconnect to that object so that it's like an anchor for you back into the present. This is orientation. And you can create a resource for yourself that can help you come in to the present moment again. And if you don't know what orientation is, I'll have a course on it soon, if not already, when you're watching this. Otherwise, there'll be plenty online or on YouTube. You can find an orientation practice that can support you. And also there's inner resources. So a really common resource would be your happy place, taking time to create a visual world and an image and an experience where you feel happy and connected and safe, so that if anything starts to become distressing, you can anchor back into that visual and it can support you to stay in connection and balance with yourself. I also want to name and pop the bubble of nervous system regulation that it's natural we become dysregulated. It's so normal. Balance isn't staying regulated all the time. We're always moving between parasympathetic, sympathetic activation. So if there's any shame around, oh no, I became dysregulated, normal. Take that little part and go, that's actually not the most educated way I could look at this. Balance is a spectrum, it's a dance. So you're not meant to stay stable all the time. You can release that expectation on yourself. What matters is being able to stay within our window of tolerance as much as we're able. So meeting the point of the sensation to the point that we're able to tolerate it and not lose connection to ourselves. If we go beyond, we're in overwhelm. Meeting that sensation and going, okay, this level of distress is becoming too much for me to process. I need to make a self-responsible decision to step away, to anchor, to resource, so that I can re-meet this content when I feel more centered. Okay. So that's titration. The other thing we can do is pendulation, which we've already talked about in essence. Pendulation is quite literally a moving between 2 points, like a pendulum. So in practice, what this might look like is finding a point in the body, a location in the body where you feel calm, where the sensation isn't overwhelming. So for me, it might be the tip of the nose. That's a pretty neutral space for me. There's not a lot of story going on at the tip of the nose. Maybe for you it's not. So it's important to actually have a play and go, how do I feel in my hands? Okay, that feels like a safe place to be. How does it feel in my ears? Choose a neutral space in the body that feels like neutral terrain. So that when you're in your pelvis, if things start to become distressing, you can quite literally move your awareness from the pelvis to that part and use that as the anchor to move away from overwhelm or dysregulation. So if we're experiencing dysregulation, we're in the pelvis, dysregulation, moving the awareness to the nose, perching on it like a little bird and staying there long enough for the heart rate to slow, for us to feel our body again. And when we feel centered enough, we can choose to pendulate back with that current sense of resourcing that we have in ourselves to the place that was challenging. And like this, you can move between the two. And over time, you can actually increase your distress tolerance and your capacity to be in that space without experiencing dysregulation. So what feels important, like a golden thread between everything I've mentioned just now, is increasing our ability to stay connected to ourselves. And it's really normal that things get in the way of that. But we can use the concepts and tools of pendulation and titration and resourcing, anchoring, orientation, to increase our capacity to remain connected to ourselves more of the time, even when we're in distress. Cool. Let me just look at my notes to see I haven't forgotten anything. No, I think that's all. So, do you feel resourced? Do you have support if you need it? You can even say to yourself, if I do not feel resourced at a given moment, I can choose to wait and come back to the material when I do feel resourced. There's no rush to get through this. And we actually go slower to go faster in a way. We make more progress when we respect this concept of staying within the window of tolerance. And this is actually a term used in trauma-informed work, so if you're not if I'm not explaining it in a way that's really clear for you, go up and look Window of Tolerance and get a little bit more cognitive understanding of that so that you can respect it for yourself. I wish you a beautiful journey and blessings to all of the paths that it brings you on.